I had no resources, no way out of this mess. I was done for empty gas tank and me, alone and defeated. After racing and beating up my dashboard, I sat in bewilderment. I felt so alone. I turned everything off in my brain and sat in the dark on the side of the freeway. Then I thought maybe I had some change in my glove box, given my financial condition. I was sure it wouldn't be much, if anything, but to my surprise, some hope was kindled me. I found 39 cents, all pennies. Oh, this is not a lot for money, even in the 1970s, but I chose a direction and headed out on foot in hopes of finding a gas station. I had only faint hopes that 39 cents would buy me any or enough gas to get home, but I was my only option at that time. I found a gas station about a mile away. It was around midnight, but praise God, it was still open. Oh God. The guy looked at me like, are you kidding? But graciously gave me some gas in a can and accepted my wallet for collateral that I would return the can. I walked back, put the gas in, primed the engine, and got the old van started. I returned the can and headed for home, hoping to get within walking distance and fix it all the next day with my dad. Well, another blessing. I don't know how, but I made it all the way home. My dad gave me a gas credit card to be used only in emergencies for the future. I never used it but was extremely grateful for the peace of mind in what God can do with 39 cents. Oh gosh. As I mentioned it earlier, I divorced. My divorce set me apart from the community at APC. There was not then, and I'm not sure if there is now, a context of Christians to understand the deal with divorce. It seemed to represent such failure and shame. In addition to the pain, it put a blackness into the valley I was already enduring. I wasn't that I was judged exactly, although I'm sure I was by some. It was that there was no real community of understanding on campus. It just didn't happen. The support I occasionally received was only from a place of mystification, mystification of confusion, and didn't know how to support me. But the efforts, when recognized, were much appreciated. Cliff Hamlow was the head basketball coach at APC at the time. He had won so many games during his career that he was called the John Wooden of small college sports. Although he had no direct relationship, what was best about a small private school was very much present at APC. I was known and cared about, even if from afar. The only real dealing we had was on the football field very briefly. He had been notified of my physical exam result and wanted to show support. Despite being in excellent physical shape, my blood pressure was very high, 160, 16 and 100 high. He asked if there was anything troubling me. I couldn't tell him that my wife and I had already decided to separate, and that I was stressed and brokenhearted. He later came to understand this after we separated and after the season had ended. I could tell I could tell he was awkward. I could tell he was awkward as he playfully approached me. He was trying to check me and show support. I felt very cared about. It was much appreciated. When I called him to thank him 25 years later, he had no clue what event I was talking about. But it made a difference to me. During a very dark time in my life, someone reached out to me. Thank God. It was awkward, but even more appreciated because I know he had no idea how to help. The caring was in the attempt. The caring was in the attempt. The substance of caring was conveyed regardless of form. I think that needs to be remembered when you don't know how to help others in strange situations. The attempt is a loving act, if done with a sincere heart. I mean. This whole period in my life, the 4 years leading up to the diagnosis of cancer, was a huge challenge to my face. I felt at the time that I had thought God's direction more than ever before, and frankly felt horribly let down by Him. What I eventually came to understand, at least with the building issue, was that it really was my plan with a lot of camouflage effort by me to get God to co-sign it. I've given this to God now, or at least I'm actively trying to, and will let Him redeem it all. I've been given to this God now, or at least I'm actively trying to, and will let Him redeem it all. I am just not gifted is discerning the will of God. Every will, there's just too much Jerry in the way. I will keep trying to get out of His way. Saturday, March 13th, 2021. I'm reading Sack Half Full From Humility to Humor by Dr. Jerry Duprez의. It's chapter, page 55, The Tower of Babel. With the diagnosis of testicular cancer, it was time to see the urologist surgeon. For you non-medical folks out there, that's big talk for the winner doctor who was going to cut me quite possibly in places I only want to gently and passionately touched by my loving wife, not a pretty picture. The day came fairly quickly for the appointment. We were led into a waiting room and sat down. We hadn't noticed the doctor's name at that point. After we looked over and saw his name, we both started laughing. Dr. Wang. My urologist was named Dr. Wang. We were giggling like two school kids in class. That's not all. We then noticed that his first name was Yu. We lost it at that point. We lost it at that point. My urologist surgeon's name was Dr. Yu Wen. Now as it turned out, he was a fantastic doctor, compassionate, honest, and skilled. He probably had more to do with my eventual survival than anyone, but we were giggling when he entered the room. He probably thought we were nuts. Why not Dr. Peter Penis or Dr. Stanley Scorton? This was all too thorough and funny, and but that wasn't the end. As it turned out, Dr. Wang's physician's assistant, a very kind and compassionate clinician himself, carried the name Mr. Babcock. Babcock. This is all true. I couldn't make it up. Dinelle, being a social worker and problem solver, was equipped with pen and pad to ask questions and record answers with Dr. Wang. He pronounces it Wang. I think you can guess why. Dr. Wang was gracious and let us ask questions about didn't pull any punches either. Dina was determined to clarify the stage of cancer. I already knew it was stage 2 or 3. And frankly didn't understand why that was hard for her to grasp. It got worse. Dr. Wang proceeded to describe the largest tumor in the abdomen as massive. He used that precise word 3 times, and Dina somehow didn't hear either it or the word tumor. Later, she was still trying to sort out stage 1 or 2 and the enlarged lymph nodes that she did hear. God blessed us that at that point. I knew he was in charge. For Janelle to be confused at that point is artificial to whom who she is. She was trying to sort out stage 1 or 2 with an enlarged lymph node when it was clear I was stage 3, the highest stage with testicular cancer, with an inoperable tumor 17 centimeters in size. Oh my God. I wasn't even stage 3. In my mind, I was stage toast. It was during in the appointment that I again felt the hand of God in the whole process. The first time was the strange peace and courage I felt with the needle biopsy, which is not like me. I usually wimp with pain. When I say I felt God's control at that time, I don't mean it. I knew I was going to leave, but I knew God was operating and in charge. For Dinelle to be so off at that time was a true blessing. It was godly confusion that let her accept her reality of situation gradually in a way that was not overwhelming to her. God was gently easing her out of her denial at a pace that she should handle. I underscored the psalmist in Psalm chapter 23, verse 4. Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Amen. I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Psalm chapter 23, verse 4, NIV. Even though I walk through for a valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. I was definitely in the shadow of death. Would that be the end result? I didn't know, but I knew I was not alone. Thank you, Lord. With the modern technological marvels of today, Dr. Wang was able to show us on the computer in the room pictures of the tumor. I said it just looked black, gray with a little outer edge of a different color. It made no sense to me. He said that little edge is the only part of my vital organs not covered by the tumor. He said he had not seen this type of cancerous tumor of large or that high in the body ever. The cancer went significantly high up into my body, engulfing my vital organs. In addition, the tumor had enmeshed itself in the main intersections of veins and arteries, worth my knowledge of anatomy only remotely understood, vena cava, aorta, etc. What was clear was that its area was too vital and sensitive to operate on. Dr. Wang said we couldn't operate even if he wanted to. The largest tumor was too large, and with one slip of the scalpel, I would lose my life or vital organs in the higher area. Not a pretty picture, close to hopeless. The usual procedure with testicular cancer was to remove the involved testicle, the original site of the cancer, and then proceed with chemotherapy. Additional surgery needs would then be determined by the impact of the chemotherapy. However, because the major tumor, there were also spots in the chest cavity was so massive. Dr. Wang recommended we start with chemotherapy first. He said we could take the testicle out anytime. Pretty cavalier with my nard, but the least of my concerns at the point. Cancer of any sort is a pretty personal experience, but testicular cancer was at least for me, especially personal. These are my nards. We are talking about here. It was less revealing to tell people I had cancer than to specify that I had testicular cancer. Yeah, my NAD have malfunctioned. Any surprise? The first appointment with Dr. Wang was involved the first of what turned out to be many indignities of the type of cancer. Dr. Wang, in front of my wife, was examining my area. He said, "Well, it's smaller," and then paused for seemed like an eternity to me. Now, no guys want to doctor or anybody to use the term smaller when describing his area. The pose and effect it had on me in front of my wife, who knows full well my limitations, but is gracious enough not to speak out aloud about them, was indignity that proved to be the first of many. Finally, Dr. Wang finished his sentence. "Well, it's smaller than the other one." "Thanks, Doc. You left me hanging there way too long." At least how we had a direction, it was off to the oncology department of chemotherapy. Saturday, March 13th, 2021. I'm reading a sack half full. Dr. Jerry Duprez의 chapter, page 59, Chemotherapy, the Wonderful Horror. Everyone has probably heard the stories about the ravages of chemotherapy. It is devastating to the human body, but it is also a powerful healing agent in the recovery process from serious cancerous tumors. I saved my life, I'm sure. There were times throughout chemo that living seemed indesirable. We'd give some insight into the intensify of taking intravenous poison into your system. I am highly educated Christian. My education gives me a vocabulary sufficient to describe most anything with non-offensive word. My spiritual beliefs lead me toward moral positions were averse to cussing. However, there is one swear However, there is one swear word that simply put, that best describes the experience of chemotherapy. Chemotherapy. I apologize in advance if this is offensive to you. You are welcome to skip this chapter if you wish, because I will use this one cuss word repeatedly. It best reflects the guttural depths of the experience of chemotherapy. Chemotherapy has made significant progress in the past decades or so in refining dosages, drugs, and types of cancer. It is much more targeted than in the past, but still has a long way to go. Indeed, if oncologists, poison doctors are fully honest, they would say the chemotherapy is the kill shit philosophy of medicine. Although the chemo drugs are specific and somewhat targeted, they kill without regard. They kill good and bad cells in the body without the truly focused selective plan. There is no